check out this massive kitchen remodeling project that we are about to start. We are going to take this old 1990s style kitchen here, and we are going to turn this old kitchen into this stunning modern high-end cabinet installation with a very rare double-decker set of upper cabinets, adding to the engineering complexity, and an oversized refrigerator installed at a 45-degree angle into the corner, and a custom pull-out spice rack and cabinet ladder rack as well to store the telescopic 2.5-inch folding ladder. The 1990s called, they want their cheap white Formica Builder Special kitchen back, and we are going to give it to them. Yeah, so you can see they have 10-foot ceilings in here, and what's unique about this design, this is going to be a great remodeling project for you to learn from. So you can see how far this refrigerator sticks out here, almost a foot out. What we're going to do is this whole unit is going to be at a 45-degree angle. We're going to have an angle mounted set of cabinets and refrigerator here. So knowing what all of our kitchen cabinet requirements are, I got into PowerPoint and just drew up this kind of basic drawing where I know which of the cabinets I want to use here from their catalog. And keep in mind that this refrigerator, as I showed you before, sticks out about 12 inches beyond the counter, which is why we're making it 45 degrees. But it's a full 36 inches wide. It's not 35 3/4 like you would expect. Now to get to these void areas, you can see there's a little blue cutouts here, these like little windows. We're going to make cutouts into the side panel there that'll allow us to reach into these void areas once you slide out the refrigerator, and then you'll easily be able to get to this rear area. So none of this space will actually get wasted. And then here's the same thing for the base cabinets. Here we have a Lazy Susan over here in the corner, where before there was a blind dead cabinet. But this Lazy Susan here improves that for us, and we'll be able to use this entire corner space. So now we head off to the cabinet manufacturer. So now I take my drawings over to the kitchen cabinet manufacturer, where they enter all of my specs into their computer-aided design system, and you can see right there on their screen they're showing us what it's going to look like. So these are the set of engineering drawings that they will generate that tells us how to put this system together. The inside, the back of the warehouse is about the size of Costco and about 40 feet tall of nothing but cabinets, and it goes all the way down the building. These 3D renderings help give an accurate view of what my kitchen will look like from my drawings all the way here into my final kitchen cabinet installation. 3D renderings allow you to walk through your kitchen. Even the sliding glass doors you see there and the countertop bar, those are all in the design. So it gives you a great walk around of your kitchen, and it even gives you the architectural drawings with the exact dimensions that you're going to need to complete your kitchen cabinet installation. And when it's all said and done at the end, after you have all of your drawings, it spits out a bill of materials for you showing all of the exact parts you need to order to complete your kitchen cabinet design and installation. After using a utility knife to slice off all of the caulk from the corners, counters, and cabinets, it took 3 of us to move this heavy countertop, because Formica is extremely heavy to move. And there goes that counter out that back door. Now the original installers drilled holes in the back of the sink vanity there in order to get the pipes in, but we have to cut around all of that in order to get that out of there. Don't forget to remove all screws connecting side by side to cabinets. This will become a tedious job for you, finding all of the screws and getting them unscrewed so that you can remove the cabinets. And sometimes you can spend 10-15 minutes trying to find where's that one screw that's holding it all together. Let's get it out of there. So now we're capping off the plumbing, and I'm putting new valves on there. It's important to be able to have running water when you need it in the kitchen there. And here we are starting to remove the last of those upper cabinets to get them out of there for good. Here's all the old cabinets here, and we always list stuff on Craigslist, and you can see they brought a U-Haul there, and they've bought the old cabinets, because we're big proponents of not throwing anything in the landfill if we can avoid it. They're driving off. And people always ask, where do you start? Well, I always start in the upper cabinets. Don't put your lower cabinets in first, because you're going to get in the way and then you run the risk of damaging them while you're trying to reach way up high. And what if it slides back down the wall and crashes onto your base cabinet? It's just much better doing the upper cabinets first. We always take the door off and we always take the shelves out. It's so much lighter and much more easier to manage here. So you can see I've got my laser right here in the corner, and our level here for the upper cabinets is always going to be 54 inches. So that's another common question that we get, is like, how high should we mount the upper cabinets off the floor? The reason why we choose 54 inches is because your base cabinet is going to be 34.5 inches tall, and then your counter is going to be 1.5 inches thick. So that brings you up to 36 inches, which would be probably that mark, that line that you see there. And so you want 18 inches as your gap from the counter to the bottom of your upper wall cabinets here. That's the standard that we use here in the United States. And some people might say, hey, what if I wanted more? By doing that, every inch that you raise up your cabinet is an inch further out of reach, especially if you're trying to reach up here. And what if you're a short person? That's first. We always do the corner piece because this is the most important one, and this sets the tone. This has to, think of it as floating in midair. It's got to be perfect, level, plumb, true, and everything. It has to be perfect in spite of having curved wall. And so that's why we're going to be shimming to fill up all the gaps. And just like Jesus is our cornerstone, he's the cornerstone of the new world, this has to be perfect. If I'm off by an eighth of an inch right here in this corner, think how far off I'm going to be 14 feet down this wall here. We're going to put a ledger board here and a ledger board there and set it down on top. Check it on this side as well. Okay, so when we measure the vertical level here, you can see that teeny bit off. So we're going to stick a shim in the back here, because in order to correct that, the bottom part of the cabinet needs to come out. So now we can see our bubbles in the middle, and we have a little bit of a shim there. We brought it out maybe 3/16 of an inch at the most from the wall. But now we have to check all the other dimensions too. And you keep playing the massage game of, you fix one direction, you break it in another direction. So now as we check for side to side level, it's like really close, but you can see it needs to come up on the right side a little bit. Watch this. See that? It's got to come up. And sure enough, if you look at the laser line right there, look across the bottom, you'll actually see as you get over to the right side, you'll see a little bit of gray of the cabinet below the laser line, just a teeny bit. And that's what we have to adjust. Now you can see, if you look at the spirit level there, you notice how the bubble is almost touching the left-hand line? So that means the right side needs to come up slightly, just a small amount. So what we have to do then is we have to stick a shim up here against the wall and move it out of the wall just a small amount. Yeah, see, barely an eighth of an inch is all I stuck it in there. See, so I stuck the shim down a little bit further, but you can see how you need to take this time here and make sure that these are perfect. This corner piece is perfect, so it's getting closer. And then looking down on the bottom, we have another shim here, and then another shim on the other side. So far we've had to put 3 shims in here just to get this thing level. And we'll negotiate with all 3 of these shims until this piece is floating perfectly straight, level, and everything. Again, whenever I mount the cabinet side by side, I'm always feeling for that lippage, making sure we don't feel anything. And I like to build the cabinets in sections on the floor and then lift them up. It's just a lot easier this way. And here we are shimming them up, making sure everything's level and straight. And here we are with that first section done off of the cornerstone. And again, we just continue on with more sections added on there. So now that we have the 2 upper cabinets clamped together, rubbing our fingers across here, make sure there's no lippage between them. And we're going to pre-drill 3 holes down vertically and then drill countersinks on them. And then we're going to run the gray screws down in here and make sure you use screws that are the right length, that they don't poke all the way through. Okay, so here's what it looks like. So we've got our 3 screws here, one there, and the other one is right here. So now we have nice, perfect hairline, no lippage. And having 2 people working on this is so beneficial to you because it just takes a lot of time putting in all of those shelves and all the little shelf pins and then hanging all the doors and adjusting all of the doors and getting everything to fit just right there. because it's very time consuming, pre-drilling all of these holes and then putting in all of the screws. Then here you can see we just systematically work our way around the kitchen wall there, and we clamp all of the boxes side to side and above each other, and then we pre-drill the holes, then we drive in the screws to fasten them together, then we install all the doors. Now you can see here we always pre-drill every one of our holes so you don't split the wood, otherwise you'll get a split. And I use a countersink bit because you can see the type of fastener that we're using here. It needs to just sit right down in there and flush with the surface of the wood when you're done. That's what the countersink bit does. And we're always adjusting, making sure when we go from screw hole to screw hole that we have no lippage anywhere. I want to feel nothing when I rub my thumb across there. We often find it easier to pre-assemble 4 cabinets perfectly on the floor and then lift the entire apparatus up. And here you can see we're using our laser level where I've already marked where the stud is. And as long as I can run a screw through that green laser line, I'm guaranteed to hit a stud. But make sure you only put the screws up at the top like you see there where the frame is on the back of the cabinets. Because usually the back walls of those cabinets are too thin to run screws through and they're not load bearing. Here we're sanding down because we needed to in order to make it fit away from the wall. And there's your frame, you see that? So you have a very small frame in order to get those fasteners into. And here we are at the end of full day number 2 of installing the cabinets. And so you can see we've got the upper stack on top of the lower stack. And we're maxing out at about 10 feet up at the very top, just a few inches shy of 10 feet. So we have the corners right there, and then it stretches off in either direction. That's where the microwave oven is going to be. As you can see, we used our Milwaukee laser here, and just look how level the laser is. See at the bottom of the cabinet there, and then all the way across to there, across the angled part there, the corner cabinet, and then across to over there where I think it stops there because it just can't reach. But yeah, this was laser perfect here. Same with the vertical. As you look as it goes up the top of the cabinets there, perfectly in the seam between those 2 cabinets. That's how you know you do a laser perfect job, folks. The builder built around the appliances with the tiles, so we have to add tiles to it now. So here we tiled in wherever there was missing tiles from where the builder just tiled around the old cabinets. So that way everything is nice and smooth and level when we go to place the base cabinets. Yeah, baby, here's the pantry unit, and we're also going to put in a cubby space next to it as well. Okay, so now we're going to join these 2 units together. We're going to close in this gap right here. And of course, the most important thing is that the front of this has to be completely straight and flat because that's the part that people see. So we're going to take our spirit level here and put it right on the front of it, and it's got to be no gap all the way down the line here, nice and clean like that. And the top of it, these 2 had better be nice and level and flat, and especially here when I put the little torpedo level here, you can't have any rocking. These have to be exactly perfectly level with each other, and the bubble better be right in the middle there. Because when they go to put the granite on there, it will crack if it's not completely level. This will act like a fulcrum and it will crack your granite. And then of course you have to be completely level front to back. So see how the gap comes together, and once we have it all screwed together all the way down, you should just see that thin hairline there. And then we'll use multiple levels to make sure that we're right smack dab in the middle on each individual unit. So each unit has to be level and attached to each other. So here we're continuing on with our same strategy. And you always want to make sure you put those big heavy clamps on there and really clamp those cabinets down good, pinch them tight together. So when we're done and we take the clamps off, you can see how you have a nice hairline that just goes all the way down. So you see how it's nice and perfect here? You don't feel any lippage there. You don't feel any lippage there. So when we get comments from other installers that say, oh, this guy's an idiot, it takes too long, he'd be fired at my company, blah, blah, blah. I put up cabinets in 7 hours, blah, blah. This is the steps that they don't take. This takes time. I think there was a total of 60 doors and drawers on this project. So now we come to the most challenging part of the entire installation. How are we going to get this refrigerator to come in here and fit and make an enclosure for it and have it go 45-degree angle and have it join up to all of the rest of the cabinets here and make it look believable. This is how we're going to do it. We started off with a 3-inch wide stock on this piece and just mitered them. We didn't cut them down or anything. Once they're put together, you'll see the seam will be just perfect. See that hairline? And then on the left side, we did the exact same thing, the same 3-inch piece. And once this is fully connected to them, same thing, it'll be a hairline. So for this 6-inch cubby, I bought us another 1/2 inch right there. This will allow us to put our rolling shelves in there and pull them out. So this comes up to, I guess, to about 4 feet or so. And then here we'll have the pull-out spice rack. That's gonna pull out at eye level, which is perfect. Perfect. By adding this 1/4-inch piece of scribe molding on either side of the cabinet, this buys us an extra 1/2 inch of space, which you need in order to fit the refrigerator in, because as we can see, this cabinet is a 36-inch wide cabinet. So you want to give a little bit of breathing room for the refrigerator to squeak in there. So now we have the first side enclosure panel clamped on here to the edge of this is the cabinet that's going to be over the refrigerator, the full depth cabinet. But you can see how we got that extra 1/4 inch there, and we're going to clamp them together and screw them together. Okay, so now here is our setup so far with the enclosure panels on either side, coming up to the first cabinet that goes over the refrigerator. So you can see how we have 36.5 inch wide opening, and there it is all screwed together.
It took 3 of us to move this precarious invention of mine into place here, and it's amazing it worked the first time.
Now take a look at this. We got this dry fitted. It's not exactly lined up, but you get an idea for what's supposed to happen. Flat with the front of the cabinets here, and then this turns 45 degrees and they'll be in a nice perfect little corner. We have 3 inches over here on this side of the fridge, but on the other side of the fridge is a different story. On the left side of the fridge you can see here's our 6-inch panel here for the little cubby storage unit to hold the ladder for the cabinets. And if we were going to put the same 3-inch piece on this side, you can see there's just not enough room back there. We'll probably cut a little bit off of this spacer so all of this can move over a little bit to accommodate it. Okay, then just like we did at the bottom where we had the panel here, we have the 1/4-inch scribe mold and then the frame, and we're going to pinch all these together, clamp them together, and screw them in, and they'll be nice just like these here. This is from the label. We'll have to clean that off. But here you can see our extended double cabinet right here. That was built because the cabinet maker doesn't have a cabinet that deep.
Oh yeah, baby, this is coming along nicely there. There's our cavity, and the refrigerator fits like a glove. And we're testing our pullout here for the ladder.
Now this is the spice rack that my friend the owner is building that will go in the upper section of that 6-inch wide cavity. And then he also built here the track that it will sit on, so it will retract out of our little 6-inch cubby. This is coming along nicely.
And you can see our kitchen cabinet install is really starting to move along now. It's really coming along. So I brought in my friend Vinny to help us do the crown molding here, and I always call him my cousin Vinny.
My cousin Vinny!
And Houston, we've got a problem, because what we found out here is that when the builder built this house, if you look here on the left side of the fridge, the floor here is a 1/2 inch higher on this side of the fridge than it is on this side of the fridge, which means now this pantry unit is too tall, so we have to remove it, and we have to shave a 1/2 inch off of the bottom of it. So here we are rolling it out. Luckily, all 3 of us were able to easily move it outside to cut it. Well, we made easy work of it, but you can see it was quite a bit of to do here just to get the thing out there and just to make this quick cut. All you had to do was cut 2 rails on both sides of it. They're down by 1/2 of an inch each. And look who is back, now at the correct height. And we are back in business. We are now dry fitting the crown molding, getting ready to nail them all into place. Now, the crown molding can take a long time when you're careful like us. We like to cut and dry fit all of the pieces and fit them together and make sure they're absolutely perfect so that all you see is barely a tiny little hairline of a crack there. Then we will glue it and crown staple them together. Now, the nails are being shot in here with a pneumatic nailer, and you'll note the little L-shaped pencil mark there where the crack is. That helps us align it back together once we set it up on top of the cabinets and pull it back down and get it ready to be pinned together. Then we flip the piece over and we apply wood glue into the cracks there to further strengthen the final product. The piece of the crown molding that went over the refrigerator on these kitchen cabinets was fairly complex, and it required some very diligent work on our part and gluing things ahead of time and just working real diligent to make sure these fit correctly.
Push down on that. Yeah.
This one?
Yeah, I'll tell you. Push straight down on that one.
And you can see how you have to keep on massaging and moving and negotiating with each piece until those cracks disappear, till they just become a hairline.
Space here with a 6-inch cubby is going to go all the way straight back, and then this large triangular area right here will be dead space, but we're going to cut huge windows in this panel, the side panel here, and possibly on upwards if they want to go higher as well.
Here on my custom refrigerator enclosure, we're cutting out the portholes so that we can access those void areas on the other side of it, and we're also adding bracing to the back of it here so that it won't be able to move anywhere. And here we're drilling the hole for the refrigerator outlet, which is right there. It's its own dedicated outlet. And these hole dozers are such a great accessory to have for your drill to drill those perfect holes.
Well, as you can see here, we're fully braced in now with our blocks, and the enclosure here for the refrigerator is rock solid on these panels. It's not going anywhere.
Next, here on the kitchen cabinet installation, we finally completed the cubby hole. This is where the pullout units are for the ladder and the spice rack. So this is now finally complete, and we're going to build the doors for it. And man, I am so glad that just before the project, I bought this brand new DeWalt Atomic Series Impact. So this is a stubby Impact. It's the smallest one they've ever made, and probably the best purchase I ever made. This thing has saved our bacon on this project. Here you can see I am custom building the cabinet fronts that are going to cover that 6-inch wide cubby hole where those 3 pull-out drawers are. So you can see the 2 short ones for the uppers, and then the longer one is going to be for the bottom where we store the ladder, that little fold-out ladder that we're going to use to be able to reach the upper cabinets.
So here's the pull-out, as you can see. The telescopic folding ladder will go right here. They'll pull it out whenever they need it and set it up, and it will allow them to reach the upper cabinets. Put the middle pull out right here. Let's give it a little test close. Straighten the bottom out down there.
We attached my custom door panels to the cabinet pullouts with laser precision. And then feast your eyes on this. I bet you've never seen anything like this before. Necessity is the mother of invention. Look what we had to do with our clamps in order to get them to hold this front molding piece on the right side of the refrigerator before we could nail it into place. Because wood sometimes does not like to cooperate with you. But you can see it's starting to look really nice now at this big old engineering project around the refrigerator. We had to build our own custom template for the cabinet doors so that we could drill the holes for all of the cabinet pulls. Here's the cabinet pulls finally attached. There's the pull-out spice drawer. And there I am posing with it. And if you can believe this, it took 2 of us 3.5 hours to put all of those cabinet pulls on every one of those doors and drawers. There was over 60 total to install. Just pulling all of the screws out of the baggies and sorting them was like the Manhattan Project. And just look how perfect this pull-out spice rack looks. And I like the fact that it was at eye height. This is what my friends Brad and Jane, the owners of the house, this is what they requested. And you can see how everything was level, plumb, true, and perfect. And you can see here with the carpenter square here on the cabinet that everything was nice in a 90-degree angle there where 2 different rows come together.
Then under the refrigerator, we've grouted all of the grout lines because we like to have it nice and smooth for the refrigerator.
Then it was time to install the kitchen cabinet kick plate, so that meant a lot of ripping of the material before we could install it here. And there it is going in. Then for the spacers around the refrigerator enclosure that we built, these are the fasteners we had to attach here for the moldings on the left and right side of the refrigerator to pull that in to make a nice hairline crack. You can see how perfect that is. All the way up and down, just a perfect hairline.
Okay, so now we got a nice piece of fine pine plywood that we're running down the top of the bar so that they can mount their granite on it. And we got to make sure it's completely flat, and especially lengthwise, it's got to be completely level with no gaps under the 6-foot level down. You got to make sure it's completely flat for them to lay their granite on, or it could break.
So we just continue down the line adding these fasteners here to make sure this bar is secure. And look who showed up, folks. The Granite guys showed up with their $27,000 laser measuring system, and they set these targets up all over the place around the counters, and they shoot the laser on there, and it actually does all of the measures and takes the dimensions. They no longer have to make any of those wood templates anymore. They used to just waste all of that material, and they use it once and throw it away.
You save on balsa wood too, man. This is cool. It builds like a diagram of the kitchen.
So they just continue all around the kitchen setting up these little targets, and it maps it for them on an app built onto the computer attached to it. It just slowly maps out the kitchen for them, and he just keeps placing these targets everywhere along the front edge of where the counter is going to sit, and he just aims the laser at those, and it takes a snapshot. And every time it does, you'll hear all of these beeps each time it takes a picture.
That's what I'm doing. I'm drawing the template, but using this like a pencil.
And this is a very, very accurate system of taking your measurements, so you no longer need to do those templates. And just as promised, about 10 days later, the granite arrived. So here they are putting in the first piece, and you can see it just fits like a glove. Just a slight warping on the drywall, but there's nothing you can do about that. You just caulk it in. And then they're bringing in the first of 2 big pieces, and we're going to have to join these together. So I'm going to show you this incredible machinery that they use to join these 2 countertops together. So now they're bringing in the second piece that goes over the sink, and they'll slide it down in there. They have to be very careful with these because granite can crack if you don't hold it correctly too. So now he's stuffing in the joint there with this epoxy, and he's going to use the joiner suction cup machines right there. These are hydraulic machines that just sort of vibrate everything together. They take both of those pieces of counters and vibrate them together. And while it's vibrating, you'll see he'll be messing around with the epoxy, filling in more and more there to get it in there, and it'll just slowly ooze out as he dials it in. Barely notice the crack at all because they do a great job milling it and sanding it and buffing it down when they're manufacturing it back in their shop. And then here for the countertop, you can see we have to put these brackets down to help support that extra wide granite that we had there for the countertop. So what we have to do here is cut mortises into the wood that I built there, And here we are with the old-fashioned routing machine there. And we're creating that mortise there that we will embed these brackets down into. And as you can see, cutting away, and then you just ooze it down in with some adhesive, and then you just start fastening it. So these will stick out, as you can see, these brackets will stick far out past the wall there, and then you just lay it down right on top, and it fits in there. And see how it just holds the bottom of the granite perfectly for you. And then here he's drilling the holes for the kitchen sink faucet. And then of course comes the inspection team, and the inspection team, they are very picky. You got to watch out for these guys. They don't let you get away with anything, folks. They're on top of you, watching to make sure you don't screw up. And I got to warn you about these feline inspectors, man. They can be very, very persnickety. Look, they're checking every single angle to make sure I didn't mess up anywhere. So next we started the herringbone tile backsplash. And herringbone pattern is the most difficult type. It's more labor intensive. It just takes a lot of effort to pull this off. And it's not recommended really for the DIYer unless you have experience. Because you'll see how many pieces you have to add in there to stitch in afterwards, and you have to use a lot of spacers. They want to sag on you, and you got to maintain that angle. It really is a lot of work. We're going to upload a separate video for you that shows you in detail all the information that you need to know to learn how to do a backsplash that is herringbone pattern. And then as you can see coming up here, I had to do the most unique cut of my entire adult life right there on this herringbone tile. And taking this out to the tile saw here, you know, I've honed my skills over the years. I can make any cut, but it takes a lot of patience. This cut took something like 10 minutes to make, because you have to slice off the pieces that you don't need, and then you just have to be very, very patient and just do these little slices in there until you can get that little notch cut out there. Next, we grout the herringbone tiles here for the backsplash for this kitchen cabinet installation. And it's very tedious too, and you have to move fast because it will dry like cement on you. But as you can see, our herringbone backsplash turned out quite nicely here. And it just so perfectly matches the grays from these shaker cabinets. Looks very modern. I hope this gives you inspiration for your very own DIY kitchen cabinet installation project. So thank you so much for joining us this time again, folks, and we will see you on the next one.